Today on TVP World, we have the pleasure of welcoming the Swedish ambassador to Poland, Andreas von Beckerath. We'll be discussing some of the key issues shaping the relationship between Sweden and Poland, particularly following the signing of the Strategic Partnership Agreement. Now, with ongoing developments in the fields of security, defense, and the European Union, as well as Sweden's NATO membership, there is much to talk about. Ambassador, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us here today on TVP World. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
Ambassador, now it's been 3 months since the signing of this strategic partnership agreement between Sweden and Poland. Now, the document did prioritize cooperation in many different fields, particularly security and defense, like I've just mentioned. Can we already speak of any concrete initiatives underway? What has already taken place, and what are the main goals, priorities for both Sweden and Poland?
Well, I had the honor and privilege to attend the meeting of our two prime ministers when this strategic partnership agreement was signed. And you can really sense that this was an important moment for both our countries. I think the agreement itself manifests the fact that relations between Sweden and Poland is closer than ever before. And this was also mentioned by a prime minister at the press conference. I think one important reason why our relations have solidified in the past few years is obviously the deteriorating security situation in our part of the world and Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. And also, of course, the fact that Sweden has joined NATO. This has sort of added a dimension to our already close relation. I think that that's why it's quite natural that we focused on security and defense in the agreement, because it's so important at this point of time, even though there are a lot of other important elements such as economic cooperation and trade. But it's enough to look at the map to realize how important our partnership with Poland is. Our security is Polish security and vice versa. And I think our foreign minister actually put it quite well earlier this week in her speech to our parliament. She said that in these uncertain times, one thing is certain. In our region, we stand together and we stand strong. And I think that really holds true for Sweden and Poland and our cooperation. Another sort of reason why I think that we cooperate so well in the field of security and defense with Poland is that we do the same assessment when it comes to the threat from Russia. We believe that Russia is the most significant threat to our security, and we believe that given Russia's scope of aggression, that it will continue to pose a threat to our security also after the war in Ukraine has come to an end.
That's a very interesting and quite an important factor that you just mentioned. So do you say that, in your view, should we feel threatened? Should we be aware that even if the war, ends, that it may go further? Estonia's security service, had mentioned that Russia would most likely think of advancing past Ukraine, and you just said that.
I don't think we should be afraid. We should be ready. And we should be aware of the fact that we're in a long-term confrontation with Russia. I think we have to realize that this was not caused by us. It was caused by Russia. And the best way to strengthen our security is to do it from a position of strength. So we have to make sure to limit Russia's ability to cause harm, limit Russia's scope of action, both politically, economically, and militarily, not least through further support for Ukraine, military support for Ukraine, and also further sanctions against Russia in order to restrict Russia's ability to wage war against Ukraine.
Right, I do have that as part of one of the points of the strategic partnership agreement here between both Poland and Sweden here, and is to ensure coherence, cooperate on further sanctions, just like you mentioned, towards Russia and increasing their
But let me just come back to the agreement as such, because again, a centerpiece of the agreement is security and defense. And there's several areas where we have already come quite a long way when it comes to our cooperation. The most obvious point is, of course, security in the Baltic Sea region. where we believe that Sweden has a lot to offer, not least our geography. We have the longest coastline in the Baltic Sea, and we have unique capabilities in all four dimensions, naval dimensions, air, surface, undersurface, and sea bottom. And these capabilities have been adopted to the very specific operational environment in the Baltic Sea. And here we're cooperating very closely with Poland. We're also cooperating with Poland when it comes to the so-called CTF, the Commander Task Force based in Rostock, together with both Poland and Germany. This CTF task force is tasked to lead naval units in the Baltic Sea, NATO's naval units in the Baltic Sea, and we're cooperating with Poland here. Also, just two other issues which I think are very important. We cooperate very closely when it comes to civil protection and civil defense, where we have a lot to learn from each other, and also cooperation between our defense industries. It's in our interest to develop Poland's defense industrial base, and we believe it's in Poland's interest to strengthen our industrial base. So we're looking very much for partnership between our defense industries and things we can do together to partner up.
Ambassador, Poland currently holds the presidency of the Council of the European Union, and after Poland, Denmark is going to take over that council's leadership. Now, does Sweden have any specific expectations for the upcoming EU Council presidency led by Denmark that's going to take over, especially in relation to neighboring countries? And do tell us a few words about Poland holding this position right now and the importance of it, again, for our region.
Well, I mean, we are like-minded with Poland, Denmark, and also the other Nordic Baltic countries in a broad range of important EU issues. And Poland can really count on Sweden to be a staunch supporter during your helm at the EU Council. We very much welcome the fact that Poland has placed security at the center of your presidency. We share the view that Europe needs to take a much stronger, bigger responsibility for our own security, and Poland is obviously leading by example given how much you invest in your defense, which is also European defense. Another area where we are very much like-minded is obviously support for Ukraine. This is the most important foreign policy priority for Sweden. And last week we presented a new support package, military support package, which is actually the biggest that we have presented. And the total support for Ukraine from Sweden amounts to 26 billion zlotys. And an interesting fact is, if you would count the Nordic Baltic countries as one entity, we would be the second biggest provider of military support for Ukraine after the US. Enlargement, also very important priority for the Polish presidency, which we fully support. We hope to make progress when it comes to Ukraine and Moldova's accession process. Obviously, it has to be merit-based, but the EU membership perspective is really important in order for Ukraine not only to defend itself, but also to win the peace.
Ambassador, you just mentioned, of course, the importance of Ukraine and Moldova's accession. Now, let's talk about Sweden's accession to NATO. And the Kremlin wasn't too happy about that, gave definitely some unfriendly reactions. Now, do you think that the hybrid war waged by Russia is perceived by Sweden as a punishment for joining the alliance?
Well, first of all, we will soon celebrate 1 year as a proud NATO ally. We do believe that Sweden is more secure as a NATO ally, and NATO is stronger with Sweden as a member. I would like to also take this opportunity to thank Poland for its strong support during the membership application process. You were among the first countries to ratify. You did so unanimously, and you also provided us with important security assurances before we became a full member. You're right that we have seen an uptick in Russia's hybrid actions. And we believe that we need to respond in a determined and resolute way. I think we've done that through the NATO Operation Baltic Sentry, where Sweden has contributed with 3 warships and 1 radar surveillance aircraft. But I would caution to make a link between our NATO membership and the uptick in Russia's hybrid actions. We have seen throughout the history how Russia directs its malign activities against both new NATO members but also old NATO members, including Poland. And I think that it's not so much that Russia reacts to what we're doing. I think the root cause of what Russia is doing is its imperial ambitions and the fact that it shows complete disregard for international law.
And international order. Let's talk about a little bit about economic relations between Poland and Sweden. I mean, we can say that they are at a good level. Are there any challenges, though? Do you see any barriers or any improvements that could be made in the foreseeable future?
Well, you're quite right that economic relations between Sweden and Poland are really excellent. I mean, it's enough to look at the figures. Since Poland joined the EU in 2004, our bilateral trade has grown with 400%. We have 700 Swedish companies on the Polish market, employing more than 110,000 people. And I think one important asset in our relation is actually the fact that we have 140,000 people living in Sweden, which are either born in Poland or has at least one Polish parent. And they have made a significant contribution to our society, to our economy, but also to our bilateral trade. So I'm really optimistic when it comes to the trading relations, and more importantly, our companies are optimistic because we made a survey last year which shows that Swedish companies reinvest more than 90% of their profits into Poland. And I think a realistic ambition is to try to reach the same level of trade that we, Sweden, have with other Nordic countries, to have the same level with Poland. And I think we can all agree that even though the figures are quite impressive, we're not even close to reaching the full potential. And later this year, and this was also included just to sort of connect the dot back to the strategic partnership agreement, one of the provisions that we agreed in the agreement was to organize a high-level business summit where we will bring together Swedish and Polish companies, not least SMEs, to look how we can partner up when it comes to innovation, clean energy, and also digitalization, and really provide.
And when is this conference going to?
It's going to end. The date is still not set, but it's going to be the first summit will be in Sweden end of this year, and the next one will be in Poland. So very much looking forward to that.
And we hope that we can definitely cover that. Thank you so much, Ambassador Andreas von Beckerath, Swedish ambassador to Poland, for all your insights here between these flourishing relations between Sweden and Poland. Thank you for being here with us on TVP World.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.